Are you ready to scale and outsource your business?
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm your host, Nathan Hirsch, a show where we talk about everything Amazon, Shopify, e-commerce, and digital marketing. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. My guest today, Hollis Carter. Hollis, how are you doing today?
Doing wonderful. How are you?
Doing great. This is perfect timing. I know this video will come out later, but we are heading to Croatia in a few weeks for Baby Bathwater. My first experience. I've heard nothing but good things. For those of you that don't know, Hollis is a serial entrepreneur and avid skier. He started his entrepreneurial journey in the early 2000s, founding multiple companies, including a software as a service company that he built into a 7-figure virtual business in less than a year. In 2013, he became a founding investor in Utah's Powder Mountain Ski Resort, which he now develops real estate and hosts events. His experiences and observations led him to co-founding the Baby Bathwater Institute, which we'll talk all about, a unique membership-based community comprised of some of the world's leading minds and entrepreneurs with a focus on cultivating natural, mutually beneficial relationships. Before we talk about that, let's take a gigantic step back. What were you like growing up? Were you a straight A student? Were you a rebel? I know you graduated college. Tell us a little bit about that.
So pretty much the opposite of the straight A student, good student guy. I think it was third grade when I got the first tap on the shoulder of, you only have to do the odd problems. And here's a laptop when no one had laptops because I couldn't read my handwriting. Like I was a dyslexic, ADD mess. Started skipping school all the time to go fishing and do stuff. I just was not a school guy. But that being said, I was also actually sort of a pretty driven kid. But it had to do with authority or structure. I sort of always zagged the other way and really enjoyed that. Like I think I started my first business that was generating revenue that I could feed myself and do what I want before I could get my driver's license. And actually it was cool. Since I know you probably have some people who are into the direct response world, it was like pre-internet. My dad gave me a lawnmower and the J. Abraham little yellow book of marketing. It had a bunch of letters that roofing companies had written to get reoccurring billing for roof maintenance. And I rewrote those letters for mow, edge, and blow, like in Georgia's, blow your leaves and trim your yard and do the whole thing. And I think I had about 30 lawns on reoccurring billing, like almost instantly there. And so I had to learn how to manage teams before I even was doing it myself. Super fun. And then it's like, I'm selling these people plants to put around the house. So then I started growing the plants that I was selling and selling those, and had a ton of entrepreneurial ventures pre-internet time as a kid, just to kind of pave the way for myself, because it was clear that my parents, my brother was really good at school. I had a massive resistance to it. They're like, you probably should figure out a way in the world that doesn't work in the normal system for yourself. So I always just wanted to be outside, and I always felt like I could be valuable, and it didn't have anything to do with taking tests.
So you mentioned, we were talking before this, you said you had used virtual teams for over 10 years. Was that with the software company?
Yeah, we had a handful of things. The software was one that I know my guy put in the bio because it's sort of something people understand. But we also had info products. We did a bunch. Essentially I was a rafting guy and I got hurt. And I Googled how to make money on the internet, and that put me down a crazy rabbit hole. I learned affiliate marketing, I learned launches, I was helping with conferences. Like we just sort of did everything while we learned how traffic worked and conversion works and products worked. And that whole time, we always read the mindset, because I think I read something somewhere, I can't recall, of, when you learn too much of a hard skill, you get stuck doing that versus growing the company. So whenever it felt like I was getting too much in a lane of doing the work, I'd always go to, an outsourcing site or something and try to get someone to do it. Once I knew it enough to hire it out, we'd do it so we could keep moving. So even though we ran a software company, I never learned to code. When we were making info products, I never really got too deep into it. We'd frame it out and hire those things out. But yeah, with the software company, we had about 26 full-time programmers in India that we had hired off. I can't remember. I don't think the site even exists. It was like a pre-Elance kind of thing. it was great. We ended up actually going to India after we had built them up to like meet them and move them from the big city to a smaller place out in the mountains where they would be less distracted and stuff. But it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What was it like hiring and working with developers? I mean, I have a very small dev team. For me, it's a struggle. I'm a business-minded guy. I'm a logical guy. The communication gaps sometimes exist there. What did you learn working with that big of a dev team?
Yeah, so I mean, I get to basically say I'm very fortunate to have my partner who hated doing the sales and marketing stuff that I like. So I did more of that and kind of the ideation of what those people would do. He was more of the manager of them, but obviously it was two guys who were not even in their 20s yet doing all of this. So we did everything together. The biggest lesson we learned was programmers are programmed to program, and they're not going to think. So learning how to make very detailed instructions so that we would get the most of our time and not go back and forth with corrections and stuff like that was a big deal. And the biggest win happened when one of the developers really showed some creative thought, which was interesting. It was the first time we got something back that wasn't exactly what we said, and nothing more, nothing less. That was like, oh, I had this idea. And we're like, oh my gosh, you had a original thought outside of our, tasks we gave you, and then made that person actually a manager of the rest of the developers, and that helped immensely. And provided some time and pay to that person to kind of help them learn some managerial stuff so we could communicate and speed up the process of the developments.
I love it. What other remote people did you hire besides developers?
I mean, everything, customer service. Like today, me and my partner just got off. We're doing a small side project and we need writers. So we have writers doing that. Probably pretty much every position, the CFO, like you name it. I think we've had that as a virtual team, because when I was in my teens and 20s running these businesses, like I either was traveling them the whole time, I was living in my van or doing whatever, and there was like no need to have a physical location. So I was very adamant on the whole digital nomad thing, and trying not to get too strapped down with that. So almost every position I think that you would need in a company, we did that.
What do you look for when you're hiring someone?
Well, I'd say now that we see people in person more with the events business, it's very cultural. The biggest thing we learned was just doing the tests. Like, do people go above and beyond? The biggest thing is, do people think? So this goes back to sort of the programmers or program to program. The biggest opportunity cost and frustrations were always when people did exactly what you said and didn't think about it, or did a little less. So it was like, we moved to a model, and I still do this today, where we never hire anyone until we do a test, and the test purposefully has a goal and a project that is vague enough that you have to see if they actually read deeper. Like even when we do the application, it's normally long ad or whatever about the job, but at the end it's like, do not send me anything related to this job. Only send me how many spelling errors were in this ad, just to see if they read the ad and try to get it. I purposely put a bunch of spelling errors in it. I don't even know how many were actually in it, but it was just to see if they wrote the subject line with a number versus actually, sending me their normal resume and see if they're just kind of on autopilot mode.
I love it. Let's fast forward ahead. You're running all these businesses. What made you think of Baby Bathwater? And can you explain the name to our audience? Because whenever I tell people, hey, I'm going to Baby Bathwater Island, I'm going to Croatia, they always ask, why is it called Baby Bathwater?
Yeah, totally. So the origin of the idea and the business are kind of came out the same way the name did. This was not an intentional business. This came out of kind of scratching our own itch, and it accidentally, organically just kept growing based off of the people who came loving what was going on and referring to friends. But like I said, for a decade I was running these virtual businesses, but honestly, our biggest hockey stick growth curves always happened when I attended events. Whether they were terrible or they were awesome, I always met one or two great people. That was always my goal. One or two people who I could build a relationship with, where I have something to offer them, they have something to offer me, and we can combine forces in some way, whether it's as simple as an affiliate thing or a partnership, or, there's a lot of options. And in that same period, my current business partner, Baby Bathwater, he is a bit older than me, was a little more seasoned, helped me avoid some pitfalls that my young and overly optimistic mind was getting into, and he would see it. But we actually just became drinking buddies at these conferences where we'd be like, I don't want to, we both had the same resistance. I don't want to watch this talk I can watch on YouTube. Let's go out in the lobby and talk to the people who want to have conversations. And I learned more from sharing stories of what worked and what didn't. Where I actually always learned best from people's like failures. So that was always the questions I was asking, like, what sucks right now and what didn't work. So I think I learned more from that than their secret system to success or whatever guru stuff is going on.
Right.
But we kind of developed a vernacular where he'd be like, how was that event? I'd be like, there was some baby, but it was mostly bathwater. And over time, we would speed talk through that, where like whether the bathwater is, they're pitching in the back of the room, that, the talks didn't really have any value, or the hotel was stuffy, or the food sector, whatever. The baby was always the really good people that we met, and the connections we made, or the perspective that was shifted, or the fun times that were had. And so it's about 6 years ago where we both had either exited our business or they were kind of running, and we both moved to the same town here in Boulder, Colorado. And we were literally just having drinks and dinners and stuff pretty regularly, trying to figure out what our next step was. So we're like, well, we always like socializing and we always got good feedback. So we threw a party 6 years ago. We put our own money up and invited a bunch of people. And they're like, that was great. I know our intention was to try to get a new business idea and kind of vet some of the ideas we had. And oddly, what we ended up doing was doing more of the hosting part. When I invested in Powder Mountain, had this great venue that was awesome for these events. So we started doing them there. It grew from 50 people to 125 people to 150 people. We never did any marketing. It was all, this guy thought he knew some other good culture fit people, and he invited some friends. But one of the keys for us was not turning into a huge conference. So we really focused on the curation of personalities of a wide variety of skill sets. So we're really not niche when it comes to industry. We have lots of industry and a wide variety of skill sets. Where it is niche is like, I guess, their business ethics and philosophies of how they do it. They're not starting for the first time. They're not an entrepreneur in a big corporation. They're kind of started with something they were passionate about, and none of us are MBAs, but now our businesses are growing and scaling. And it's like sort of the conversation of, oh crap, like the problems I had to get going are not the problems I have to scale. And that's sort of the conversation. And then there was just so many events for the professional speaker, coach, guru. And this is more for the not recognizable face, but crushing it and doing a great job. But also very humble, and will tell you what's not working too. Because they're behind the scenes and figuring out how to turn the levers and wear a million hats, and they can kind of enjoy having a conversation with peers about the journey that everybody's on.
Right. So, I mean, people know conferences, they know masterminds, they know networking events, obviously parties. Where does it kind of fall into that? Can you give people a little glimpse behind the scenes of what they can expect if they attend one of your events? And I'm kind of telling you, because I want to know what to expect when I attend a week and a half.
Totally. I would say it's more of a stew of all those things. Like, it kind of goes back to, I think, both Michael and I, as hating too much structure and being told what to do. Like, when people have reached a certain level of success and have done it in a humble way, they sort of know what they need to get the most value. So we sort of offer all of the things that you've listed. There's parties, there's masterminding, there's content, there's talks, there's all these things. But I think it was like, we're just the set and setting. We're not the teachers or the gurus. We don't bring in specific guys to teach systems. It's more peer sharing. So the elements that make it work are we always go outside of the normal locations. Obviously, renting an island in Croatia is a different setting than a hotel in Atlanta or whatever. And the key is that no other folks are present who are not part of this curated group. So me and Michael have talked to every person on the phone or met them in person. They came in through referrals. So we know kind of where they're at in their journey, that they're humble enough to talk about what's not working, share what is working, and do all that. So there's not going to show up and have a name tag in a workbook, but you're going to have a buffet of things that you can do. And what's nice on the island, there's 3 different stages going. There's I think something like 56 talks in the 5 days that are there, but they're not one individual preaching to the choir. It's probably 3 or 4 people on a panel having a curated discussion. Even though there's 200 people there, there'll probably only be 30 or 40 at each session, because we tell people only go if this is a big pain point for you, the subject that we're talking about, or you have a lot to offer. If not, spend that time really chatting with other people and having those. It's just such a unique thing to have people who are kind of playing in your same world and can provide network and perspective. And so just don't squander that time sitting and listening to a talk. Only go if it matters. So we kind of tell people not to go to talks, which is funny. For most events, they're hustling you in with a cowbell in the hotel room. We want them to go when it's relevant and be a part of a peer-to-peer conversation. If not, we want them to dive in and have a good time. And then also our culture is also a little bit about not taking it so seriously, which is a big part of the name, being a little cheeky and funny. As yes, there actually literally are people with charities and changing the world and doing good things and running great businesses. But at the end of the day, we want to have a normal human-to-human conversation, and that's why we have lots of partying and fun, and people can go sailing or go to a yoga class or go work out or stay up till the sunrise watching live music and having free wine and booze all night. It's sort of pick your poison, figure out how it works, and just really dive in with folks and have a normal human-to-human conversation.
I love it. What was year one like planning that? I mean, you guys are renting an island. You're getting all these entrepreneurs from all over the world to one place. I have to imagine a lot of work and time goes into planning and executing that.
Yeah. It's funny. Someone told me, he's like, you should really show the work more, because we get people engaged. We're so busy doing it. The amount of effort that goes into it is pretty crazy. But, I think it's something I would do, that kind of work, even if I wasn't getting paid for it. I like the event production side, and doing it usually, it's sort of like an extension of the old guiding lifestyle, going to crazy places. It's sort of like these secret missions. I love when the venues tell us that we're like a SWAT team that can come in and take a place that normally couldn't be a high-end hosting environment and turn it into one. And it's part of the transforming environment. But the Croatia one is interesting because most of our events, there's shuttles and all these different things that take a lot of our time during the event. What I love about the island is we do more work. It's probably 10x the amount of work to make it happen with customs and this and that and all the different stuff leading up to it. But once we get there, no one's leaving. It's all sort of set up as this game that you just drop into and people can play, and there's requests and different things. But it's an immense amount of work. I love it. I just got done with a meeting with a bunch of other people, like Jason Goodard from Mastermind Talks and other people who are doing events. And it was clear to me, our level of attention to just more the experience and the hosting part is what we like, because we had the big, kind of an overbloated team for it, but I love it. We really want to deliver on that. And we've really shifted into a membership where the events pretty much break even for us. If not, last year we lost quite a bit of money on Croatia because it's unpredicted cost of doing business on the other side of the world, in a different country we didn't know. But the membership has become what sustains the group, and people take a long time to build really quality relationships. So I just want people to come back, and our stick rate's phenomenal. And that's really the goal, is that they feel well taken care of. They met, even if you meet one person who becomes your lifelong friend, a lot of people can justify all the effort for that. It's a very, very tight knit community of people who support each other. And that's really the payoff for us. But yes, it's so much more work than running a software company for the return. It's not something I recommend people do if they're really looking for a quick hit, but better to do after you've had a foundation. We had a runway from our internet businesses to allow us to do this, because it took about 3 years for it even to be sustainable.
I love it. What do people get for the membership? What does being a member of Baby Bathwater entail?
Yeah, so like everything, we try not to plan so far ahead that we're handcuffed to our plans. So every year we sort of revisit, we kind of review the film and see what worked and get lots of customer feedback. Because once again, it's the members are the product versus us being the product and delivering courses and things like that. But for this year, which is going really well, there's about 140 members in the group. There is a really active online group that's, literally someone had an issue with their shipper today. They posted it. They had 20 comments on it and people helping them out. Like, they're really there for each other, helping each other out in between the events. Kind of some regular trainings that show up. Like, if someone's having a big issue and other people are having it, we'll do a Zoom call and bring other people in and kind of help them out. We do lots of group negotiations. Like, if someone hires an agency and it doesn't work out, me and Michael will call them and be like, hey, you probably want to fix your thing you did to that person, because we don't want to tell our whole group about it. There's a little mafia kind of thing going on there. So they get the online group, which helps. It's essentially like a support system to keep wind in their sails. Like, I have so much appreciation for people who do a business without a business partner. I've always had a business partner, and sometimes you just need like a sounding board before you take a big leap with an idea, or you're dealing with something stressful and you need someone to bounce an idea off when you're in the weeds. So a lot of people view it kind of as like this community of business partners they have. And then it includes some events too. So we have our big like Croatia one, which you'll meet, about 100 members there, and there'll be another 100 people. And that's actually our funnel as an event, because we want it to be like a two-way date, so people don't commit to a year before they've really spent time with folks. And then we do members only ones as well. This year we have had 2 of those so far, and they've been great. And it's a similar setup and vibe where we just set up the set and setting and they kind of find their value. There's a lot of structure, but it's like hidden in the background. It doesn't feel very forced. So yeah, it's a mix of online and offline community. And then it's really cool to see how much things have popped up. Like, in the last 3 months, there's probably been 4 pop-up events that weren't planned that had between 20 and 60 people in the group all getting together on a regular basis, whether it's around another big event or they just happen to be in the same town, and it starts to grow.
I love it. Hollis, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find out more about you and about Baby Bathwater? And what are you most excited about besides Croatia for the rest of the year?
So babybathwater.com is where people can find out more about it and what's going on. What I'm most excited about now is, I'm literally just planning 2020. We've always been, because our sales process is so not automated and so hands-on, normally all the way to the finish line, I'm still doing interviews, but somehow we built up a lot of momentum and now we're sold out. So I've got this weird 2 weeks right now where there's a lot of event work to be done, but now I have part of my brain that's thinking of all of our venues for 2020 and how we're going to, do a great job there. So I'm just excited to shift. I think we've hit the point where we don't really want to sell tickets anymore. And we've reached, I actually learned this at one of our events from a content session, of like the importance of knowing when to stop growing. And I think, a key is we've reached a really good size now. And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get too big and lose the culture and the support we have in the high touch. So kind of excited to shift gears from growth to just completely continuing to add value to the group and doing it that way.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'll see you in a week or so.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.